Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra, Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, NWSL analyst and broadcaster. On today's episode, we're bringing you Attacking Third's 2021 NWSL awards for Best Assist, Best Skill, Best Save, and Best Goal. We compiled the best of the best, and we narrowed it down to 4 nominees per category. And this week on Twitter, we had you, the audience, the fans, and listeners vote for your winners. Heads up to everyone listening via podcast. We're going live on YouTube, so welcome. And we're going to be showing the clips on YouTube. And we will be very descriptive with the nominees in this episode. But if you prefer to watch the clips of the nominees, you can head on over to YouTube to see the specific plays we are talking about. Another reminder to follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. And for our YouTube page, you can head on over to youtube.com/Attacking Third to never miss a new video, interview, or whenever we do go live. Plus, you can catch extended NWSL highlights on the channel. Subscribe when you get a chance. Lisa, I'm excited. I'm in my holiday best. You got your holiday lights going on. How's it going today? How you feeling?
I'm good. I mean, I love the holiday cheer, let's be honest. But I'm actually really pumped to talk about these awards and these nominees. It's always fun at the end of a season to kind of look back, especially this 2021 NWSL season. It was very long. There's a lot of games, a lot of goals, a lot of saves, a lot of assists, a lot of sweet skills that we saw. So compiling this list was a little tricky, and to narrow it down to just 4 nominees per category was extremely difficult to do. And we'll talk about some of the honorable mentions that didn't actually get put into this poll, but we think very highly of here at Attacking Third. But it's fun to look back at the year, kind of extend the year as much as we can into this postseason ahead of draft coverage and new teams and preseasons coming in, and reflect on all of the fantastic things we saw on the pitch, because Sandra, we saw a lot of very cool things this year, and I'm excited to talk about them and get your opinion on some of the skill we saw.
I'm excited too. It's the end of the year where it's like you always get to do that kind of fun stuff. It's like, oh, who doesn't love a listicle? Who doesn't like a best of? Who doesn't like a top whatever? And obviously with us, we wanted to sort of take a little bit of a different spin on what can be considered like end of the year awards. So we wanted to focus a little bit of what we saw on the pitch this year, in light of all of the games that we covered on Attacking Third during the regular season of NWSL. And it got broken down to best assist, best skill, best save, best goal. But we were also kind of limited because we wanted to include the fans. We wanted to include the listeners and our audience. And when we were like, yeah, let's do it via a Twitter poll, we knew right away that we had to narrow it down to 4 because of sort of the construct of Twitter and how that platform is built. So there were only 4 nominees for each category. But we thought, that's fine. It'll give us an opportunity to sort of give the shout outs or, the narrow misses for those categories as well. So I'm excited.
And Sandra, we also wanted to do things very differently than what the league does. And they do MVP and Golden Boot and things like that. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to do the skills. We wanted to do assists of the year, because it's all those moments throughout the game that build up to make a team great, to make a player great. And a lot of the players that maybe don't score all the goals, or the goalkeepers that don't make all the saves and have all these crazy records that they break, they still deserve to be highlighted. I'm a little still hurt that we didn't do like defender move of the year, but maybe next year, guys. It was a lot to put on one producer in myself. We'll get to that.
We'll have to rethink that for sure. Like when we're contemplating, we'll have to rethink like how to incorporate that in some capacity, because I think also because of the type of league it is NWSL. So there is opportunity, I'm sure, to find highlights of like epic, those epic goal line saves from like a center back, right? There's always a ton of those, or even midfielders who get on those end posts and deny things off set pieces. So it's something that we'll think about looking ahead to 2020, but 2022, but you can't do that. And so you sort of close, right, the chapter on 2021. And that's sort of, I think, what maybe we're doing a little bit with this episode in light of events happening in the future with the expansion draft, the regular NWSL draft. And that's really going to sort of signal the beginning, right, of the 2022 season. And before we get there, we got to really say goodbye to 2021. So let's do it. Let's just hop right in we are going to start with best assist. For the nominees, we have as follow: Trinity Rodman, Washington Spirit. We got the goals going up for everyone right now. We've also got Veronica Latsko, Eugenia Lesomer of OL Reign, and Naomi Kawasumi of Gotham FC. But this assist from Trinity Rodman right here, Lisa, let's break it down maybe for our listeners.
It starts defensively, Trinity Rodman doing the work in the middle of the field, and you just saw her pick off the pass. As soon as she gets the ball, her head is up, and she's trying to find that over the top of the defense ball, perfectly weighted right into the path of teammate Ashley Hatch, Golden Boot winner at the end of the year, who slots it away. I think for me, the Trinity Rodman assist, because it starts in the defensive end with her getting back and putting in the work to get the ball into the front of the line, it does it for me. It's so fantastic from start to finish on that one.
I'm in agreement with you 100%. We're taking a look now at Veronica Latsko and her assist with the Houston Dash. I think the ability to just sort of balance this ball, right? I think people don't realize the sort of quickness you have to make with your decision making when you sort of feel that ball kind of out of nowhere, and then be able to sort of control your body and balance that and pass it off and lay it off for that goal. I thought it was great. But another assist that got a lot of attention was from Eugenie Lesomer of OL Reign. Let's talk about that a little bit, Lisa.
This was ranked number 2 in our fan voting. It also starts with defense. She does great body positioning to get between the attacker with the ball and the ball. And then she has the awareness to know that her teammates are running behind her. It's a cheeky back heel pass right into Ziara King's run, who then finishes it. So that was our number 2 in our voting poll that our fans did. And then number 3 and our last nominee, it's with Gotham FC. It's Kawasumi. It's similar to Trinity Rodman's assist, picking the ball up in the midfield, immediately getting her head up, finding Margaret Purse on the run on the back line. And it's a nice, long, lofted ball over the opponent's back line, right into the stride of Purse, who, of course, finishes it. And I think the fun part of these assists, Sandra, is that they all end in goals, whereas a lot of times some of our other plays that we had, they didn't end in goals, which makes it a little bit sad, but that's why we get to highlight them. But ultimately, fans really outvoting on this one. It was completely uneven, 73.5% in favor of Trinity Rodman and the Washington Spirit. This player, I think it's really showing and telling of how much work Trinity Rodman did all over the pitch, being rookie of the year. I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but the defensive work that she put in, it was nonstop movement every time that she was on the field. And then her ability to not only score goals, but get assists and be that creative mind player as a rookie in this league. It was phenomenal to watch her this year, and ultimately winning the championship with Washington Spirit. But isn't it funny watching these? Hindsight's always 2020, and we weren't necessarily sure watching this game live what was to come of it.
No, for sure. I mean, but also I think an important thing to note in this one, as we're talking about this first category, that Trinity Rodman, yes, wins this vote, but she also wins this vote by over 70% of the vote, which is more than any of the other categories ended up breaking down with, which is, I thought, was real interesting as well. And I think this is maybe just the first. We're just really witnessing the beginnings of Trinity Rodman. Went on to win Rookie of the Year, and I'm not going to be surprised if we decide to keep our A3 awards as annual awards, that we'll see Trinity Rodman in this category somewhere down the line. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's like maybe a bit of a consecutive streak as well. So let's take a look moving forward a little bit. Let's go into best skill for this one. And Lisa, why don't you let our listeners know, before we get into the nominees, why don't you let them know perhaps what we mean on A3 when we're looking for best skill?
I mean, best skill is that play that naturally, when you're watching the game, it's like, whoa, she just did that. You can't help but audibly gasp at what the player just did on the field. And it's not necessarily what comes after it or what comes before it, if it's an incredible goal, but it's their ability to really dance with the ball at their feet and it stays glued to their foot, and they can just make some magic happen on it. And that's what we see a lot in the NWSL. So this one was particularly hard to narrow down to just 4 nominees throughout this category.
Yeah, let's just go through like fourth place all the way through to the winner. Starting off in fourth place with 5% of the vote, it was Carly Lloyd and her skill set with Gotham FC, followed by Sophia Smith of Portland Thorns with 8.3 of the vote. And then we've got Martha with Orlando Pride in second place with 30% of the votes. And the winner in Eugenie Le Sommer of OL Reign with 56.7% of the Twitter fan poll results. And honestly, this one for me was hard to go through and take a look at. But if I was voting in the Twitter poll awards, I was going with Martha of Orlando Pride. I'll put myself on blast. I've got a soft spot for Martha and what she brings to the game. And I thought that there were some moments for Orlando Pride where there were some real rare moments where you sort of looked at that team and could say, hey, what a great tactical or skillful moment. And this was one of those moments for them. But Eugenie Le Sommer walking away the winner in this one, Lisa. And I remember when this goal happened, we talked about it endlessly during that week when it happened. Why don't you let me know your breakdown of that?
Yes, I mean, Eugenie Le Sommer, she won this ultimately. And this was the move and the skill that was talked about across Twitter and social media for like almost over a week, from one weekend of games to the next weekend of games after it happened. I will touch on your Marta skill as well, because I think that one's fun. But for Le Sommer, it's the moment when she gets the ball. It's a long ball. She's on the left side of the flank. She only has one defender to beat. So it's really a 1v1 social battle against her defender. She brings the ball inside. She cuts it outside, forces the defender to do an entire spin around the ball, putting her back to the ball to come back and defend. So cuts outside and then cuts it back inside. The defender slips and falls. And outside of the box, it's Le Sommer shooting a beautiful ball that actually comes out to be a goal, and it is her first goal for OL Reign. Sometimes when I'm looking at like the skills or the moments and you know the background information, so this was Le Sommer's first goal for OL Reign, it makes it just a little bit sweeter, because it was like, wow, if she can do that in her first goal of the season with this club, what can't she do? And we did go on to see more from her throughout the year.
I want to piggyback off that. Do you think that maybe that rings true or echoes similarly, perhaps, for somebody like Carly Lloyd, but just in like the opposite sense, where it's like you knew that this was the end all, right, for her soccer career playing on the pitch, and maybe that's something that we took a look at in light of these nominations?
I mean, I think you have to look at it like that, because knowing that it was the end of her career and these were the last moments we were going to get of Carly Lloyd, she almost had pressure on her to be this bigger than herself player every time she got on the pitch. And she was one of the nominees in the skill award. So she did show her hand at what she can do on the pitch, but there was definitely more pressure from Carly Lloyd to perform at the end of her career. Because I think when you look at Carly Lloyd specifically, she ended her career on what she would consider a high. I mean, how many Olympics did she go to? How many World Cups did she win? And she was like, you know what? I won bronze. I'm tapping out. I'm going to the playoffs with my club team. And then I'm tapping out and I'm going out on a high. You don't really want to come down from that, or at least plateau off of that. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Sandra.
You know, I gotta say, I'm thrilled with all the nominees and including the winners as well. The fans have spoken. I'm always going to respect that. But in terms of like maybe that extra nominee that we wanted for either of these categories, whether it's best assist or best skill, is there anyone in particular that you've been thinking of? I'm going to give you some time to think about it if you didn't get a chance to think about it yet, Lisa. I am going to say for maybe best assist, I also would have maybe included another Washington Spirit player and somebody like Andy Sullivan. Trinity Rodman, it took her a little bit of time to get going in this regular season. Kind of had a bit of an impressive preseason and Challenge Cup, but needed a few weeks to sort of get in that sort of professional career, week to week grind type of season. And Andy Sullivan had a moment where she sort of launched this ball over the top. Again, we're talking about things that start in the defensive half, right? And you have Sullivan feed this long ball over the top to Trinity Rodman during the Chicago Red Stars game and just absolutely breaks down that Red Stars back line and slots in a phenomenal goal. So I think it could maybe even be an assist, an extra nominee for assist, and maybe even a nominee for goal. But I think if I had to maybe choose another one, that was going to be for Andy Sullivan for me. How about you?
I love that. I love that we get to pick these. And these are our honorable mentions, which we talked about when we went over these overall. I think one for me that isn't that shiny and it's not that sparkly. And that's probably why subconsciously I didn't put it in these polls, because I knew it wasn't going to get a lot of votes. But a player like Caprice Didasco, outside back for Gotham FC, she was constantly getting into the attack, whipping crosses into the box, and not just whipping crosses into the box, but finding assists and crushing them. Throughout this season, she ended as one of the top assist leaders of the league. But a lot of her assists and the goals that came from them weren't that sparkly and that shiny that we did see, like the assists that were nominated, like the Trinity Rodman ball over the top to Hatch. So a lot of Didasco's was just crosses in from the flanks, but it's her ability to pick out runners in the box and hit them on a dime. That's so skillful. And from a defender's perspective, an outside defender's perspective, that is a skill that is very, very crucial to have. And that's why we saw Caprice Didasco nominated for Defender of the Year and being a player that was constantly in the best 11 month after month and getting awards weekly. So that's another assist I would have loved to throw into the mix in these nominees.
I hear you on that. We've got two more to get through, Lisa. We're going to have best save and best goal that we have to go through the nominees and we have to go through the winners in this one. And there's a little bit of a fun twist with best save that Lisa and I are going to have to take care of. And we're going to do that right after a quick break. Okay. Let's hop right back into the final two categories here. I'm going to mix things up, Lisa. I think because we love defense, I'm going to save best save for last. I think we need to go with best goal in this one. So let's go with best goal. We had 4 nominees, again, like all of the other ones. We had Ebony Salmon from Racing Louisville. Let's talk a little bit about this goal, Lisa. Let's take a look at Ebony Salmon and how she introduced herself to the league.
And that's it, Sandra. This was Ebony Salmon's introduction to the league, to the game. She just stepped onto the pitch. I think it was about a minute into her playing of the game. It's Savannah McCaskill dribbling down the pitch. She finds Salmon running across the opponent's back line and she gets her the ball. And it's Salmon who does this chop to just break her way through the defender's back line and get this shot on goal. But remember, it's her first minute into her first game in the NWSL, and she gets an incredible, incredible goal, and that was Salmon. Our second nominee is Jess Fishlock. This was an open field goal. She receives the ball right in the middle of the pitch. She has a lot of time and a lot of space around her, and it's the mindset and the vision of Fishlock that gets her head up probably about 35, 40 yards out and chips the goalkeeper. It struck hard. It struck really well. It goes just over the goalkeeper's hands into the back of the net. That goal made waves. I remember watching it live and watching everything unfold after that Fishlock goal. I'll keep going about these. Our third nominee is Darian Jenkins of Kansas City. It was off a throw-in. The ball actually gets redeflected off of the defender right into the foot of Jenkins, and she's dribbling horizontally across the top of the 18-yard box, on the corner of the 18-yard box. She gets just a yard of space, and she fires this one far post upper 90. It was beautiful. And this was when Kansas City was really on their rise, just wrecking opponents with their goals and what they could done. This was a home game for Darian Jenkins. She did a fantastic job with this one. Our last nominee for goal of the year was Christine Sinclair. She starts the play, ultimately gets the ball wide. It gets serviced into the box by Portland, and it's cleared out by Karen Bardsley, who just punches it. Goalkeeper just punches it out, and it lands right to Christine Sinclair, who is about 25 yards outside of the goal. So like 10 yards outside of the 18-yard box. And this ball comes out to her flying through the air. And Sinclair just has the vision to keep her eye on it inside of the left foot and just volleys it over Bardsley's head into the goal. This goal was fantastic because Sinclair did not let it bounce. She took the ball out of the air after the punch from the goalkeeper and was able to find the back of the net, cool, calm, composed, which is a really tricky thing to do. There wasn't a lot of power behind the shot, but there was a lot of placement, and Sink placed it just right. One of the best, of course, to do it. So those were our top four nominees.
Yeah, Christine Sinclair taking the results in this one in first place with 34%, followed by Darian Jenkins in Kansas City Current with 27.7%, and splitting third place, really, Jess Fishlock and Ebony Salmon with 19.1% apiece. And I think that that's fitting. That feels appropriate of a transition, Lisa, because we have one more category left. It's
Wait,
best
Sandra,
save.
before we get to our last category, who do you like for best goal?
Oh, I'm absolutely going with Christine Sinclair. There's you know what? I'm not just trying to, play to the fans. Just don't disagree with them in this one. I think all of these goals, right, are impressive in their own way. I mean, my God, with the knowledge that we have now, knowing that Jess Fishlock picked up MVP in 2021 and sort of seeing the type of things that she can produce on the pitch, whether it's creating her own shot, which is very difficult to do in NWSL, or, racking up the assists, that goal just sort of will stick out, I think, for, seasons to come. And then Ebony Salmon sort of coming through and just sort of, I love that. I love coming through to an inaugural team like Racing Louisville FC. And then not just sort of making your arrival, but a lot of folks maybe not having the understanding of like your background and who you are and where you come from, coming on over as an English international, and a young player at 20 years old, and really introducing herself, coming off of the bench and immediately making an impact. That absolutely leaves your name in the memory of people's brains moving forward. If they didn't know you then, they sure as hell knew you now. And I love that from Ebony Salmon. But in terms of goals that we haven't typically seen in NWSL, we so rarely get to see these type of skillful chips. And the fact that it came from a savvy veteran and somebody like Christine Sinclair from the Portland Thorns shouldn't be too shocking. But all of these goals, I think, in their own way, are winners. But if I have to give first place to someone, I'm going with Canada's captain in Christine Sinclair.
I agree. I mean, she did do fantastic stuff throughout the season. I have to say, pulling these nominees and looking at all of the goals, I was lucky enough to look at all of them and then narrow it down to just 4. This Ebony Salmon goal stuck out to me so hard because of the background and because of the narrative surrounding this goal. First game in the NWSL, first minute on the field, she gets subbed on late in the game. And it's beautiful. It's like, hello, I am here. And it was at Louisville. It was just fantastic for her. So I had to throw it in there because of that. But I agree with you. The Christine Sinclair chip is just phenomenal. She deserves to win this goal of the year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that in best goal, it wasn't a huge blowout, maybe, right? What we saw in the best assist or best skill. I mean, it's pretty almost evenly distributed, with 34% going to Sinclair, almost 28% going to Jenkins, and then Fishlock and Salmon ultimately splitting around 20% or so. So not too surprising that maybe these two categories ended up having some draws between them. But that's the transition we're going to make. When we go into best save, there's a similar scenario, but it's not a draw for third place. It's a draw for first. So when we're looking at these nominees, it's Casey Murphy of North Carolina Courage, Aubrey Bledsoe of the Spirit, Ashton Harris of Orlando Pride, and Bella Bixby of Portland Thorns. Elisa, let's break him down.
Casey Murphy is our first nominee. It's against Gotham. Gotham does a nice job to send a dangerous cross across the entire 18-yard box. So Murphy has to shuffle her feet from one side to the other, and then Kawasumi gets a first-time volley to the opposite side post. So Murphy is shuffling her feet across the goal and has to dive backwards to make the initial save. Casey Murphy, a player that we talked about in the NWSL awards that we think got snubbed. She wasn't even nominated for Goalkeeper of the Year. Our second nominee is the Goalkeeper of the Year winner, Aubrey Bledsoe. It's against North Carolina Courage. Debinha streaking down the field. She has a little slip pass through to her teammate, Amy Rodriguez, who strikes it one time across her body to the far post. Bledsoe makes a diving save. She just parries it wide, so she barely gets her fingertips on it, and it goes wide for a corner kick. We saw that from Bledsoe so many times this year. Ashlyn Harris. She is a player, a goalkeeper that stopped not one, not two, not three, but 4 penalty kicks throughout this 2021 season. This penalty kick, I gave it to her third stop of the year against Lynn Williams. It was a beautiful stop. She puts her fingers in her ear. She blocks out the noise after that save. That was tied for first place along with the save from Bella Bigsby. This is a great job from Kansas City. They're moving the ball around the box. It's shot to the top of the 6-yard box, and Bigsby is in position, but it's Kristen Hamilton who gets her toe on the cross that's coming into the box and redirects the ball. It almost looks like it's going to be chipped over Bella Bigsby's head, but Bigsby somehow reacts and adjusts, jumps up and backwards towards the open mouth of her own goal and gets one hand on the ball, is able to collect it, and lands on top of it. She doesn't bobble it at all. It's a one-handed grab. I think I even saw on Twitter someone that was voting in this and looking at this said, I was sitting right behind that goal when Bella Bigsby made that save. She palmed it with one hand and just brought it into her chest. Fantastic goal. So those are our tying two. Ashlyn Harris on the penalty kick save, and then Bella Bigsby with the one-arm grab. It was like the wide receiver that I would love to see the Eagles do, grab it one-handed and bring it in, keep it safe. But Bella did it.
I love that both these categories sort of came down to this. It was sort of really kind of close votes, maybe not by the percentages, but every vote ended up counting, I think, in these final two categories, because similar to best goal, we ended up having a draw, like we've mentioned, but this time for first place. So Casey Murphy walks away with this one in third with 18.4% of the vote. Aubrey Bledsoe of the Spirit with 23.7% of the Twitter poll vote. And Ashlyn Harris and Bella Bigsby walk away with a tie for first place with 28.9% of the votes. So here we are, Lisa. We didn't realize
tiebreakers.
We didn't realize or think that we were going to have to deal with a tie. We thought we were done with tiebreakers. Again, we're closing the chapter on 2021. We're like saying adios and farewell. But here we are having to deal with tiebreakers again. And you and I are going to be the tiebreakers. And I think we both have to agree, because if we split, that's still a tie. And then we're going to have to flip a coin. But I think you and I have both come to a consensus that it has to go to one player. And I know who I'm going with, and I know who you're going with. So I'm just going to let the people know that Bella Bigsby is going to be the winner of our Best Save Award in the Attacking Third 2021 awards. Congrats to Bella Bigsby. I mean, I loved hearing you break it down. I love watching that highlight again on the YouTube channel here. I just enjoyed watching the rise of Bella Bigsby this season, period. I don't know if people understand or realize just how difficult of a position that is in NWSL. And number one, first and foremost, for a very, very long time, it was probably the toughest position to earn your starting place in, because this is a league that is still growing. And for a long time, it went from 10 teams and fluctuating to 8 or 9 teams. And then now we're going back to 12 teams. And that is 12 jobs for goalkeepers. And that is a very tough position to ensure that you have your place. And so with the departure of Adriana Franch mid-season from Portland Thorns, they did that in good faith, in that Adriana France was looking to make a return to her home state and play for Kansas City in front of family and friends. And they were able to do that sort of with confidence, knowing that they had a hometown kid of their own in Bella Bixby to be able to sort of take over the reins and have that starting position on lock. And when we're looking at that type of save with the type of skill that takes and body control that takes, I think this franchise is in a good place in goalkeeper moving forward.
I think I mean, I agree, of course. Bella Bixby should be the winner in this. And you do have to kind of look at full picture of these saves. And I'm going to give Ashlyn Harris a little bit of credit here. At this point in the game, when the penalty kick happens, penalty kicks tend to go in favor of the kicker. It's just they have the advantage in this type of moment. Now, not necessarily against Ashlyn Harris, because as she said, and she told to the public, I do my homework. I know where my opponents are going to kick the ball. So this goal came when Orlando was down against North Carolina, 1-0 at this point in the game. It's about the 40th minute, 39th minute, right before halftime. So Ashlyn Harris keeps this game at 1-0 heading into halftime, which is a really great job. However, Lynn Williams, the kicker of this penalty kick, I'm going to be frank, Lynn, not the most well-struck ball that I've seen. It was a little soft. It wasn't necessarily hard to the corners, making it difficult save for Ashlyn Harris. Still, very hard to save penalty kicks, but because of that and all the factors going into it and everything you just mentioned about Bella Bixby, I think the more impressive save is Bella Bixby's that she did. And really that the season that took her from starting on the bench to then being the starting goalkeeper and really ending the season on such a high on the pitch. We have to give this to Bella Bixby.
I mean, and that's an important note that you make about that penalty save that we put up to be a nominee with Ashlyn Harris. I think Lynn Williams would agree with you. In fact, I think a lot of players who end up having to go to the spot and take those penalty kicks would agree with you. There is this weird combination at times with penalty kick scenarios in this league where they're about 50-50. They're 50%. Wow, that was a great save. And there's 50%. Why did you take the kick like that? Where maybe it wasn't just the best of taking penalties. So it's sometimes a real world toss up. And again, that's another reason why I really love NWSL, because when it comes to those scenarios, it really can go either way. But for this one, for the save, we're going with Bella Bixby. This was fun, Lisa. I had so much fun doing this. I don't know. What do you think? Should we keep this going into the years to come? Should we have an annual A3 end of year awards like this moving forward?
I think we have to. It was a lot of fun to put together. It was great to have the fans vote on what they liked and what they saw. And of course, for us to break these tiebreakers, maybe we can expand, get a great defensive play of the year. We'll see. We have a whole season to think about how we're going to tackle this, but I truly enjoyed doing it. And I love looking back at all of the great moments of the year and really putting our crown and our gold star on the top 4 moments in top 4 categories throughout this year. It was fun. It was fun to talk about these and kind of break them down and pick our favorites. That's the best part.
For sure. I'm there with you. I hope we keep these going into the years to come. And 2022 is already shaking up to be a pretty exciting year. So I think we're going to have to continue this and keep it moving and keep it going and keep it shaking as the years to come. I want to thank everyone for joining us today as we sort of break things down and sort of bid our farewells to 2021 and the NWSL season that we all witnessed there together. Thank you all for listening and joining us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a question, and Lisa and I will answer during our mailbag segment. As you will also know, we're also available as videos. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. It's at youtube.com/Attacking Third. Hit subscribe, and we will be back on Monday with draft previews and our special guest, Marissa Pilla. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.